Ever wondered what it would be like to live in a time when technology and social norms were changing dramatically? The Victorian era was a world of its own, a period that transformed the face of Britain and beyond. Let's dive into some fascinating facts about this extraordinary time. The Victorian era spanned from 1837 to 1901, during the reign of Queen Victoria. It was a time of immense change, shaping not only Britain but the world in terms of culture, economy, politics, and more. One of the most defining features of this period was the Industrial Revolution. This was the era when machines changed the way people worked, and inventions like the steam engine, railways, and the telegraph shrank the world and made communication faster. But the Victorian era wasn't just about progress, it was also about strict social norms. Imagine this. If you reached for more food during a meal, it would be seen as impolite. Yes, Victorian manners were all about formality. And speaking of superstitions, Victorians were quite the believers in them. If someone died in a household, they'd cover the mirrors, fearing the soul might get trapped in the reflection. Quite eerie, right? But let's talk literature. Victorian writers like Charles Dickens used their stories to highlight social issues and the hardships of the poor. His work, like Oliver Twist and A Tale of Two Cities, are still considered some of the most influential writings of all time. The era wasn't just about social reforms. It was also about global expansion. The British Empire grew even bigger, influencing many parts of the world from Australia to India. British culture left its mark everywhere. When it comes to fashion, the Victorians had a very distinct style. High collars, corsets, and long dresses were the norm. Fashion wasn't just about looking good. It was a symbol of class and social status. Victorian personal life was complex. Marriage was sacred, and women's roles were mostly confined to the home. Public life was largely a man's domain, and women didn't have the same freedoms they have today. As for health, the standards were quite different back then. The Victorians faced major health crises like cholera and the plague. However, some remarkable medical advancements, such as the use of antiseptics and anesthesia, began during this time. The Victorian era was truly a paradox. While the world was changing at an unprecedented pace, many people held on to traditional values and ways of life. This era marked a turning point in history, not just for Britain, but for the entire world. That's a glimpse of the Victorian era, an age that reshaped everything we know today. If you found this era fascinating, drop a comment below and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing history.